You're listening to an exclusive interview on WNS. Okay, folks, joining us on the show at this time, former WWE Superstar, the one and only Cody Rhodes. Cody, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
We appreciate you coming on. For all information on Cody Rhodes, you can follow him on Twitter at Cody Rhodes, or you can go on to Facebook, facebook.com/official Cody Rhodes. So, haven't seen you on TV in a while. So, first off, thank you for coming on to the show, and how have you been?
I've been doing really, really well. I made myself quite busy, once I got my freedom from the WWE schedule that I was on, and it's been quite a ride so far. So I've been really well.
Very good. And actually, after your departure from WWE, on your Twitter account, you released a photo of a special list containing some of the wrestlers you'd like to compete against. First part of the question, how does it feel getting to cross some of those names off of your list? And second part, are we going to be seeing any new names added to that list?
That's a great question. I think I have kind of in my mind, I have like mental amendments on the original list. I didn't expect the list to really go like gangbusters like it did, and you can never really top the original. I mean, there's some sequels who have done it. There's Empire Strikes Back, but I mean, like, the original list is really special. Looking back at it, I wish I had included some names, and like I said, those are my mental amendments. Names like Kenny Omega, for example, some of the British independent talent that's kind of just dominating wrestling currently. Marty Scurll, Zack Sabre Jr., Will Ospreay, like those cats. But those are my mental amendments. So there's another list. It's just in my mind.
That'll be your Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Right, there you go. Hey, I mean, that's way better than saying like a sequel. They're all greatest hits, right?
So you got your start kind of in OVW, which was at the time WWE's developmental. Then you went straight to WWE. So a lot of the wrestlers today wrestle on the independent circuit, trying to get to WWE, where you've sort of done the opposite. So now that you're familiar with the style of which WWE conducts their matches, now you've sort of gotten a taste of the independent style. How do they differ to you? Is one more exciting than the other? Do you feel less safe, more demanding?
I think. I don't really look at them as contrasting styles, and I don't mean to like insult. They are very different. TV wrestling with WWE versus perhaps an independent wrestling show like PWG. They're very different, but it's not the styles that it's for me to adjust to. It's actually the talent themselves. With like the like the inception of NXT, developmental became much less about building their own talents at WWE, and it became about maximizing on independent and international talents that already had this flair about them, this built-in equity. So the contrast in style so much isn't, I don't find one style safer or not safe, or one, I don't even find them different as much as the talents currently, like this past weekend at PWG's Battle of Los Angeles, those talents, I would put them up against any roster in the world. I mean, old to young, as far as like Jushin Liger being part of that roster. I mean, they're putting on matches that I think are superior than anything you're seeing on television, that being with Raw or SmackDown. I think, and the best part is I think you'll see them eventually on Raw or SmackDown, because that right now is where the recruiting is happening.
Absolutely. Some of them taking place in the Cruiserweight Classic, some going to NXT, some going up to the main roster. So it's really cool to, like, if someone had come up to me a couple of years ago and say, hey, this guy's going to be in WWE programming, all of these guys are going to be fluctuating between Evolve and NXT, and you're going to see this guy get called up, you're going to see that guy get called up, I would have thought you were crazy. Like, it's been an insane shift in the past year in wrestling.
Well, the demand is different. It's not 1985 anymore, and you cannot tell the audience exactly what they want. You can try to lead them along, but the audience has more control now in pro wrestling and in sports entertainment than they ever did. You cannot tell them something is really, really good when it's not. That's where you run into those situations where you've got a charitable guy who's always smiling and should be nothing but a good guy, and they're booing him out of the building because he's not that authentic, genuine wrestler that you're presenting him as. Whereas the places you're seeing these folks now, Cedric Alexander, for example, those people are too talented to be held back by size, by any number of things that might have in the past held you back from making it to a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown or hell, a WrestleMania.
Absolutely, and it's certainly going to be an even more interesting year in the wrestling world as all of these new talents start to emerge in the eyes of the casual WWE fan. But going back to you, there was a report that came out this past weekend that we might be seeing you in Ring of Honor and TNA. Is that something you can address? Is that something you could elaborate on?
Yeah, for sure. I can't speak to like specifics exactly, but I think I made the list. And if you look at the list, at the very top of the list, it wasn't prioritized, but the name at the top is obviously the first name that I thought of, that being Adam Cole. Then Adam Cole makes his home in Ring of Honor, and I'm a massive fan of Ring of Honor. I drove up and down the roads with Daniel Bryan and Cesaro and got to really know Kevin Owens. And, my last few years with WWE, those guys, their admiration for Ring of Honor and what they were able to accomplish there built them to the level they were at in WWE. So, with that said, if you're on the list, like Adam Cole, I'm going to make the best efforts to get to where you are, and that doesn't exclude TNA, and it doesn't exclude Ring of Honor. If you look at TNA, with absolute studs like Moose, Mike Bennett, EC3, Trevor Lee, I could literally just yammer on and name a bunch of names. What the Hardys are doing there is exceptional. The thing about TNA is there's all this stigma around it that people are focusing so much on the business side of it. Well, who owns what and what's happening and paychecks and all this nonsense, when in reality, the in-ring product that they are delivering is of the highest quality, and you have these young guys. You're not just making it a haven for ex-WWE or broken-down wrestlers. No, they're young, hungry son of a guns there, and like I said, if you're on the list, I'm going to make every effort I can to get to where you're at. That might be Ring of Honor, that might be TNA, that might be New Japan Pro Wrestling. I mean, currently, I'm signed on to do Final Battle December 2nd with Ring of Honor, Hammerstein Ballroom, and that just, it means the world to me to be part of the event and to be heavily featured on the event. Just when they came out with a graphic alone, it sure as hell means a lot to me. So hopefully there'll be more of that in the future.
Absolutely, and the fans are certainly gravitating towards you. You certainly got over with the crowd in your time in WWE. I mean, you were given many, many different tasks in your time with WWE, from teaming with Hardcore Harley, your time in Legacy, dashing Cody Rhodes, the Rhodes Scholars, teaming with your brother Goldust, and even Stardust. Everything that you were given in some form or fashion, you ended up winning over the crowd, whether you were playing the good guy or the villain. Can you talk a little bit about that? Was it just your work ethic, or do you just have that particular it factor? I mean, I don't want to stroke your ego too much or anything like that, but no. I was certainly a fan of yours.
Well, I mean, like, WWE is to some people the absolute end all be all in the wrestling game. It's the company that's able to do WrestleMania. It's a company that a lot of us grew up watching. So when you're in a position to be on that, when you're in a position to be in that locker room, when you're handed something that maybe not be to your liking, that's the reason you get the paycheck every week. So you're gonna deliver. There's plenty of people, not just me, there who had high level of work ethic. The thing that I kind of prided myself on was taking things that might necessarily not or shouldn't work as well as they did, and making them something bigger. Me and Daniel Bryan used to have this joke, and I'm trying to remember exactly how we. Our joke used to be, if you can't draw money, make it funny. And the easiest thing to do is do comedy, especially is to take anything that you're not too big of a fan of and make it silly. And I always tried to make stuff that, if I wasn't a fan of it, regardless, to make stuff not silly, but make it good, make it pro wrestling. Try my damnedest to not make anything that somebody would laugh at. Now, there are plenty of times that I've laughed at myself, that I've been laughed at, but taking something that is not supposed to be a contender and making it a contender is a damn good feeling. And I just thought at a certain juncture, I was tired of doing that, tired of making something out of something less. I kind of thought, well, what if I had been given something more? What could I have made of that? But all hindsight, and it's worked out for both parties. They granted me my release in an amicable fashion, and it's because of that I'm able to do this tour I'm on now. So it's really worked out.
I just have to share this story with you because, I would be sinned if I didn't. One of the long-standing jokes that we had during your time wearing the mask after Rey Mysterio broke your nose, Tyler would always make the joke, "Oh, what does he look like underneath that mask?" So just something, just turning, nothing into something and making it special. I mean, for God's sakes, your mustache got more attention than a lot of people in the WWE who try. It's just crazy.
The mustache was I don't know. People really liked it, and I liked it when we were out there. But then I remember you're walking through the airport and they have this kind of Charlie Chaplin dyed mustache, and unless you're a woman from the 70s or 80s, I don't think you really find that type of man sexy. I just kind of looked rather goofy. But you know what, people, it was kind of a head turner. So
it goes in phases. It goes in phases because beards are in, and then mustaches will be in, and then it'll be the goatee all over again, all that.
I hate it all. I hate it. The goatee thing, especially when I was growing up, the way guys were playing with the goatee and facial hair on their chin. But today, people treating growing a beard out like it's the most special thing ever. It's literally the laziest thing you can do. I'm not knocking anybody with a beard, but to treat it like it is just this burden and this chore and this thing that you should, you all you're doing by growing a beard is doing nothing. You just do nothing. So I don't think, and I might just be jealous because I don't really grow facial hair well. So maybe I just can't grow a beard.
No, it's just part of the grooming tips of being dashing.
Yeah, right. I'm still trying to preach.
Now, there was actual talk about having possibly Stephen Amell return to the WWE, maybe have a WrestleMania moment between you as Stardust, with him being Green Arrow, maybe even a match. Was there anything to your knowledge that prevented it from happening? I mean, I know you're going to be appearing in Season 5 of Arrow.
Yeah, no, I actually I haven't seen the episode. I haven't seen the episode myself, but it's the third episode this season. They come back to air October 5th, and I know they're this season it's really kind of back to the streets for Arrow, and it's my episode. I was really proud of what we were able to put together. So I hope wrestling fans, if they're not Arrow fans, certainly become Arrow fans. I don't think with Steven, there was a particular Hell in a Cell match that was supposed to happen in Los Angeles. And it was kiboshed, and the way it was kiboshed was unfortunate because we'd already set up ring time, and we'd been told that's the direction we're going, and I'm used to things changing on the fly. When you have somebody kind of from that world, that's kind of a kicking the balls for them is that especially when there's no reason. I think, and I mean this is not an answer I was given, but WWE tends to define celebrity different than maybe my generation defined celebrity. I'm probably out of it more than I think, but I feel like the younger crowd's a little bit more on the cusp of pop culture, whereas WWE is pretty much hell-bent on their celebrities basically have to be 10 years out of their prime or bored as hell or just, no offense to any of these people. That's why I'm not naming their names, but I don't even think they realize they've hired some musicians back who have literally sang the same song that they sang on the original event they came to. I mean, they're literally just taking WWE's money and basically laughing at them. But yeah, so I always thought there would be some young upstart writer who would bust into that writer's room at WWE and kind of explain to the older crowd what's actually cool versus what's just plain lame. But that is yet to happen. So I don't know if they realize that Steven and the Berlanti universe and, the massive audience that all 4 of those shows on the CW have, and the youth that watches them, that would be all about, because of the pageantry behind superheroes in general, would be all about, turning over and watching professional wrestling. I just, hey, though, they got Shaq. They got Shaq.
Yeah, they do have Shaq.
They got Shaq.
They got
right,
Flo Rida and Machine Gun Kelly and all that good stuff.
I'm not even going to name any names. I sat under the stage at WrestleMania 29 in New York after they had cut my match at the curtain. I sat under the stage and heard a guy sing a song that I had heard him sing on a previous show. So I just stewed under the stage, and then realized that the pyro could have blown me up and got out of there.
Well, thank goodness that didn't happen. You mentioned the similarities between the heroes and wrestling. We've been a long-standing supporter of that debate, saying that there is a precise crossover between superheroes and wrestling, with the good guys being your all-time heroes and stuff like that. Even some of your ring attire has been influenced. You've had the Triforce from Legend of Zelda. You've had come out looking like Mr. Sinister from X-Men. Are you into comics, and if so, which ones are you into?
Yeah, no, I'm a lifelong DC Comics reader. I love Marvel too, and the X-Men being my probably favorite. With Batman nipping at it. I'm not as current as I'd like to be. I always say I'm about 6 months behind on like whatever the big crossover event. Like they just had Rebirth, and I'm behind on what's going on with Damian Wayne, and I love the character they've introduced with Damian Wayne. But no, I remain as close to comics as I was a diehard fan growing up. As close to comics as I can, because there's a lot of parallels, and I think it's a really cool world. That's why I just jumping for joy over the fact to be on a show that's centered around the Green Arrow. I think back to friggin' young me reading Longbow Hunters and Green Arrow being part of, just the Dark Knight Returns, and just in general, like, I've always loved comics. The Mr. Sinister cape ended up being pretty successful. I didn't think it would be, because on paper that thing looks really badass. In practice, it's very difficult to make like wire attachment, individual strands. That poor lady, I think she used little kids' lacrosse shoulder pads for that one. But hey, it's a good time.
Well, you pulled it off nicely, so major props to the costume designer. And like I said, it is well known you're a fan of The Legend of Zelda. Out of all the games that have come out in the 25 years of Legend of Zelda, which one has been your favorite, and what are your thoughts so far about the upcoming Breath of the Wild game?
So Breath of the Wild looks really great, but I'm in the minority on this one. I don't really like the cel-shaded Zeldas. I loved Wind Waker when I played it, but I grew up with the games, so you kind of want this adult version of The Legend of Zelda to eventually happen, with voice acting and a modern day graphics engine showing you. But at the end of the day, Nintendo is making games for kids and families, and I have to not be selfish, and then usually I fall in love with these games anyways. I think my favorite game of all time is Ocarina of Time. I think it's the greatest game to ever come out, with Metal Gear Solid being probably a close second. I don't think there's a game better than that game. It stands the test of time now, and I know that all the other Zeldas influenced it, but that's the game that makes people wonder when's the next Zelda coming out every year. Is that first Nintendo 64 installment? So that's my favorite.
Yeah. One of the things that worries me about the video game for Legend of Zelda is like you mentioned, the voice acting. There's going to be so much hate on however they make Link sound that, it's probably wiser just to avoid it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but you do have to move forward.
Yeah. In
some junctures, there was plenty of hate that Kiefer Sutherland was voicing, Big Boss, when it's clearly supposed to be David Hayter who's doing it forever and always. But it didn't stop that game from Phantom Pain is an exceptional game. I didn't mute it,
Yeah.
So.
Or Jared Leto as the Joker, after everyone saw Heath Ledger.
That's the thing. Like, you're not going to be Heath Ledger, but I felt like I was shocked at the amount of like people not liking Suicide Squad. It's not
As
my
was
favorite
I.
movie of all time, but I definitely thought it was cool to see an incarnation of the Joker that was a mob boss.
Yeah,
that was
definitely.
a gangster. That was cool. That was different. And yeah, you're playing the role after Heath Ledger, so it's got to be completely different. What else are you going to do?
Mm-hmm. It's tough.
I always in that argument the same way. When people ask me who's the best Joker, I just tell them Mark Hamill.
Thank you.
Joker.
Yes.
Yeah, I just say Mark Hamill and then just walk away. you're either solely into Jack, or Heath Ledger. His performance is just, you can't see a colorful Joker now because you saw such a dark Joker, and then you don't like Leto because it was such a departure from the look and perhaps origins. I don't know, but Mark Hamill, you can never go wrong with Mark Hamill.
I mean, the guy's got Arkham in his name, so it was destiny.
Yeah.
Going back to wrestling a little bit, we always like to ask this question because you never know what to expect. Are there any fun on the road stories that you could share with us?
I think people have heard this story, but it's just one of my favorite moments ever, seeing kind of like a bodybuilder mentality shatter in front of you. When me and Daniel Bryan took Ryback to Panera, and he was so confused by the menu. There's a lot on the menu. So confused by the menu that he started sweating. And the young girl, part-time teenager, not so interested in her career at Panera, wasn't very friendly at the counter either. So it added to his almost panic attack, where he cut into Dan and I about, you guys can eat this stuff because you're 205 pounds, but I'm a grown ass man, and he just laid into us in front of the entire store, and then when he turned around and asked her, well, do you have salads at least? She just looked at the back of the board where it clearly said in bold letters, salads, and when she just gave him a smug he took the cups and he just knocked all the cups over and just stormed out of the store to only come back moments later and order a salad from a different teller there. And then he got like $60 worth of food, and then people would bring signs to shows that said Ryback hates Panera or Ryback fears Panera. It was just hilarious to me to see a man sweating over his frustrations, and then accuse me and Dan in our lighter size of being less of a man because we couldn't eat that Panera. But I love the Rybacks dearly, but that was one of my favorite moments of all time.
How dare you, sir, be a man of your size?
Yeah, no, he was pissed. He threw all those cups.
And one other question that we asked some of our longtime listeners if they wanted to chime in, and everyone responded with they would like to hear a story with you and your father.
Well, there's so many with Pop. I keep a lot of them closely guarded, but this was a cool little moment. It just kind of popped in my head. At WrestleMania in Atlanta, I think it was WrestleMania 27.
I believe so.
Yeah, I was wrestling against Rey Mysterio, and little known fact, it was not only my first singles match at a WrestleMania, it was my first singles match on a pay-per-view. I had been in tag team main events, I had been in a Hell in a Cell, I had been in this, but never a singles match. And I was, happy with the end result of the match, and had, I grew up in Marietta, Georgia, so we're essentially kind of in my hometown when we were in Atlanta, and I was talking afterwards, and I was standing next to Rey Mysterio after the match, and my dad just pulled his BlackBerry up, and I looked over the corner of my shoulder, and I saw him taking a picture of the two of us. And as the first time, I was like, he was a fan of mine. I'd always been such a fan of my dad's. And it was the first time I saw, wow, I made him a fan of mine, because, at the end of the day, we always you want to impress your dad. That's an important thing, and be like your dad. For most most guys. Then he started doing that with everything. And one year I'm having a private meeting with Big Show, and he just kicked down the door, and there's Rock and John Cena and me and Big Show in a private room, and here he comes just talking nonsense and how much better he is than everybody in the room. It was just some magical Dustyisms and stuff like that. But yeah, I always he did that every year at WrestleMania. After that, I'd catch him taking a picture of me, and I never tell him I caught him doing it. But it was always cool to see, like, all right, he likes what I'm doing.
One of those very special moments. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. Do you have any upcoming appearances or upcoming projects on the way?
Well, I mean, I put everything on my Twitter because it's like it's madness. As far as like this weekend alone, starting Thursday, so starting tomorrow or today, tomorrow, whenever this airs, is a banner like weekend. Chris Hero, Friday night Brian Fury, Saturday night Pat Buck, the guy who had my first professional wrestling match 10 years later at his promotion, wrestling him. Sunday night, me and Johnny wrestling against Drew Galloway and Chris Hero for Evolve. And then, it just, the hits keep on coming the following weekend, working Tommaso in one of his last independent matches before he goes full-time with WWE, and then big-time wrestling. I put it all on my Twitter because it's hard for me to even keep up. My Twitter and my Facebook is where all the announcements are.
Awesome. And for all the info, like we said, follow Cody on Twitter at Cody Rhodes, or go to facebook.com/official Cody Rhodes. Just look for the little check mark. It's that simple. Cody Rhodes, we certainly appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on to our show.
Oh, no. Thank you very much for having me.